its final targeted orbit. Once the first and second stage separate, the second stage will propel our payload to its intended orbit. You'll notice some gray paint on the second stage today, and that's just to help absorb some of the heat from the sun to keep our fuel warm during the long flight today. And above the second stage is where our payloads are safely enclosed inside of the fairing, and that's what you're seeing there on your screen. The fairing protects the payload from aerothermal loads, heating, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need this protection, so we will jettison the fairing as the second stage continues on its journey to orbit. We will be attempting to recover the fairing 100th flight of a reflown payload fairing. The Viasat-3 America's mission also marks the very first Falcon Heavy to launch with flight-proven fairing halves. Viasat-3 is the first of 3 satellites to make up a new global constellation. So here's more about today's mission and payload.
Every mission starts with a vision. Ours is simple and powerful. Break new ground and bring connectivity where it's needed most.
At Viasat, we attack very hard problems. But the harder the problem, the fewer people that can do that, and the more interesting it is to us.
The story of Viasat as a whole is a great story. We enable connectivity.
We say connecting the world, but that has a number of different meanings depending upon the type of customer you are.
From an end user like you or me sitting at home needing connectivity to do our homework, or to the connected passenger in an aircraft, to the Vice President, the President of the United States.
Our government customers are global customers. They go wherever they're needed, and they want to have the same type of capabilities everywhere they go.
For over 35 years, we've worked tirelessly to get to where we are today. Creating satellites with greater capacity to carry more data and handle higher speeds.
We've heard a lot of people say it's impossible to do what they're talking about doing at Viasat. You know, a terabit satellite, it's not going to happen. And so I'm really excited to say that's not true.
In just a few minutes, we will launch the world's highest capacity single satellite into geostationary orbit.
With this launch day, we are entering the Viasat-3 era. We have our first one going up over the Americas.
Flight 1 enables us to bring connectivity to the markets here in North America and in South America.
Well, the exciting part of Viasat-3 is the fact that it's not just one satellite.
By deploying 3 Viasat-3s, we will have a near global network that can provide services to virtually the entire Earth. One of the features you'll notice is the very large solar arrays. These enable us to generate well over 25 plus kilowatts of electrical power on orbit. That allows us to generate huge amounts of capacity that is then usable on the ground.
The enormous capacity of Viasat-3 isn't worth nearly as much if that capacity is stranded in areas where there's no demand.
Most of the people in the world only live in a very small fraction of the Earth. Yeah, we still want to be able to connect those people when they move from place to place.
Viasat-3 is designed to move our capacity to where the demand is.
Our ability to move that bandwidth around and really service those dense spots, that's what our customers are looking for.
It's not just evolving, it's really like a revolution, making these big leaps in technology. And that's cool.
I think
if you look at the progression from Viasat 1
so
Viasat
coming up
2
on
Viasat
Strong Back
3,
Retract.
Viasat 3 is actually the smallest satellite we've ever built, despite the fact
Falcon
that it's
Heavy.
got multiples of
Remember
capacity.
they retract the Strong Back
things that were twice the size of a human and brought it down to
4
barely
minutes,
the
something
size
like that
of a
before
shoebox.
launch.
The satellite
And that's like the
design
tower.
process is no longer buy parts and boxes and hook them up. What we wanted
It's the
was to
tower
invest in
that,
technology that can really scale. It's not just
a new satellite design, it's a new way to build
tower
satellites.
That they, we've had to reinvent all parts of the system.
Have their
I want to thank
lines,
everybody
all that good
for
stuff
their role in what we're about to do today.
And that needs to retract.
I want to thank our partners.
They retracted a few degrees out of the way
where we are today
before
without their
launch,
support.
and then they actually, at the moment of launch, they'll retract it back to about 45 degrees.
America's satellite. Today is the day.
With the Viasat-3 constellation,
about 45
billions
degrees back,
of people can access more of the world,
it's not in the way of
unlocking opportunity
those 27 Merlins
for
that are
everyone,
going to ignite
everywhere.
in about 4.5 minutes.
Starting now.
So Strongback is about to retract. You can see the clamps there. Right here.
Strongback will start to
clamps
retract
attached there. They're starting to retract. You can see them moving back from the second stage in the payload fairing of Falcon Heavy, just 4 minutes ahead of liftoff.
After this, the Strongback will retract away from the vehicle, and this is to clear the way for ascent.
So it's about...
Strongback is used to provide structural support as well as routing for fluids.
NY booster lock load complete.
As well as routing for fluids and power to the vehicle.
There, Strongback is starting to retract.
Booster, LOX load complete.
We just heard LOX loading finished up on the PY booster. Next up at around T-minus 2 minutes, LOX loading will complete on the second stage. After LOX loading finishes loading onto the second stage, the entire vehicle will be completely full with 2.8 million pounds of
You can see the Starship Tower in the back there, right?
Center core LOX load is complete.
Did they say stage 1 LOX load complete?
Just hearing the various boosters finish up their LOX loading.
I think the LOX load complete on stage 1. There we go. There's a nice view of Falcon Heavy, 2 minutes and 47 seconds before liftoff. And remember, they tried to launch yesterday and Friday, I believe. Those 2 attempts were both scrubbed.
Looks like quite a nice day down there in Cape Canaveral. Weather is much more cooperative for this attempt today.
I'm going to turn this up just a bit.
Now again, in just about 15 seconds, we will be completing LOX loading on the second stage, which will wrap up the propellant loading phase of our countdown.
Second stage LOX load is complete.
And there it is. Falcon Heavy is now fully loaded with 2.8 million pounds of propellant. Coming up next, we should see some white clouds venting from the TE LOX line. This is completely normal and part of our closeout process.
So, second stage LOX load fully complete.
Enter startup at T-minus 1 minute.
T-minus 1 minute, 39 seconds.
Take control of the countdown.
So, 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds till liftoff.
Our LD or launch director should give the final go for launch. Let's listen in for those callouts.
1 minute, 10 seconds now till liftoff. Falcon Heavy will go into startup at T-minus 1 minute in about 2 seconds. There you go, Falcon Heavy is in startup.
There we go, Falcon Heavy has just entered the startup phase.
So we should be getting go from flight director any second now.
Go for launch.
And with confirmation of go for launch from our launch director, Falcon Heavy is ready to go to space at T-minus 37 seconds with the Viasat-3 mission.
Okay, Viasat-3 is about to be in space. T-minus 30 seconds, here we go. T-minus 25. You can see some deluge starting to come on. 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Here goes ignition.
Engines full power.
And there's liftoff. There goes Falcon Heavy. Alright. There goes Viasat. Pitching downrange.
Falcon Heavy is headed really to space. Now we are throttling down our engines on those side boosters, and that's in preparation for Max Q.
Power into telemetry nominal.
Max Q is the
so they
moment
just
of
got
peak
Max
mechanical
Q.
stress.
Falcon Heavy is supersonic.
Peak mechanical stress on the vehicle, so we do slow down the vehicle to get through this period of high stress. And once we pass through Max Q, we will throttle those engines back up on those side boosters.
Max Q.
Yep, there's Max Q.
And great call out, we have passed through Max Q. So we're gonna throttle up those engines again on these side boosters.
So the engines are throttling up again, once again.
You can follow along the telemetry on your left hand, on the bottom left hand of your screen.
Wow.
You can see the speed and the altitude of the vehicle. And some incredible views of Falcon Heavy in flight. Now, 2 minutes into flight, we will reduce the thrust on the two side boosters again.
So just remember,
and that will be to
no landing
decrease
attempts
the forces
today
on the vehicle structure, and that's because the vehicle is now lighter as we're burning through the fuel on the vehicle, but the thrust will remain constant.
So all 3 cores are
and wow, that looks amazing
crashing
on the
to the
screen.
ocean.
All 3 boosters
today.
Burning bright there.
2 minutes into the flight.
Falcon Heavy is following a nominal trajectory.
Look at that. That
and
is
good
insane.
call out on trajectory. Now again, we're gonna throttle down the side boosters, and then the next event coming up in about a minute or just under a minute.
You can see the green in that.
Will be BECO. That's booster
cool.
engine cutoff.
I don't think that'd
That's
be
where we
no,
will
that
shut
wouldn't
down
be
the
TTIP because they're
engines
not
on the
doing any
boosters,
ignitions right now. So I don't know.
Boosters from the center core.
Just something to do with
And
the
as a
sunset
reminder,
or something.
we are not landing our side boosters or center core today due to performance needed on today's mission. And you can see on your right-hand screen, we do have a view of the separation mechanisms from the center core to
coming
the side
up
boosters.
on booster engine cutoff. Just a few seconds away. And yeah, booster engine cutoff
is coming up here in a few seconds.
Yep,
MVAC engine chill has started.
Okay, MVAC engine chill starting. Should be BECO in about right about now. There's BECO.
Booster engine cutoff.
There we go.
Side booster
so there's separation.
Confirmed. Both side boosters, FTS has safed.
There they go. Side
Great
boosters are gone.
There we had BECO booster engine cutoff.
See
and
that
we watch
center
as
core.
Those side boosters.
I wonder
and you
why
can
the
see them there on your
why
screen. Those side
are
boosters
the cold
following
gas
away,
thrusters pulsing?
Following away from Falcon Heavy's center core.
I guess just to maintain orientation or stability or
Awesome
something.
views. That's going to wrap it up for the side boosters today. The next event coming up here in about 30 seconds or so is main
30
engine
seconds
cutoff.
until
That
main
is
engine
also
cutoff. So
called MECO.
they're
That
in
will be on
space
the
now,
center core,
102 kilometers.
Followed by stage separation and then the startup of our second stage engine.
That looks cool. Ooh, look at that view. That's pretty cool. Okay, there's MECO. Should be stage separation. There's stage sep.
Stage 1 FTS.
Ooh, look at the sunlight on the nozzle there. Okay,
MVAC ignition.
there's the MVAC ignition. There's a stiffening separation.
Acquisition signal, Bermuda.
And we got some great views. We watched MECO as the engines
so
on the center
second
core
stage
shut
is
down,
burning.
stage separation,
Should be
and
fairing
you can see on your
halves coming
screen
off
that the
in
MVAC engine
just a
has
bit.
ignited. Now we are coming up on fairing separation.
There's the fairing. There's separation.
And also we're able to see and hear the call out that
Stage 2 is following a nominal trajectory.
That the fairing halves have separated.
The MVAC
they
going
are
red
now
hot,
falling back down
white
to
hot.
Earth, and we will attempt to recover them using our recovery vessel, Doug.
So yeah, the only part of the mission that's going to be recovered today is actually the fairings. So no boosters, no cores, nothing like that. Obviously, the second stage isn't recovered on any Falcon launch,
second
but
stage, looking aft at our MVAC engine.
Yeah, fairings.
And our MVAC engine.
So technically,
on
this is
second
not a
stage
fully.
currently in the middle
I mean,
of its
yeah, it's
first
fully
burn.
expendable launch, just with the fairing
This
half
burn
recovery.
has about a minute and a half left. After that, we'll have an additional 2 burns of our second stage engine before payload deployment. On your left-hand screen, you could see a map of the mission trajectory. On your right-hand screen is a live view.
Wouldn't that be cool if they showed us
engine.
views of the
As a reminder, our
side
main
boosters
payload
and
for today's
core just burning up? That'd be pretty cool. But
good call outs.
I don't think we'll ever
our
get
main
that.
payload for today's mission is Viasat-3, and we do have 2 secondary payloads on board as well from Gravity and Astronis. That is the Gravity Space 1 and Astronis's micro-geo satellite. If you're just now joining us, we're currently in the middle of the first of 3 burns for this MVAC engine today. The next event coming up is in just under a minute and 15 seconds. We will have SECO 1, or what we call second engine
SECO's
cutoff
coming
1.
up. SECO 1.
That will end the first
like they
of those
said,
3
they're going to
burns.
have just a few burns left
Today's
to go.
mission marks SpaceX's 28th launch this year,
28th launch of
227th
2023.
overall mission to date, and our 5th operational Falcon Heavy mission.
Wow. 227 launches, and that would be including Falcon 1, I believe. Yeah, those wouldn't include like Starship or anything because those aren't.
Stage 2, FTS has
I mean, maybe they include the IFT in there,
Now
but
on your right-hand screen, you can see the MVAC engine.
I don't. They'd include like the hops.
And we're getting good call-outs there. On the bottom right-hand of your screen, you can see the speed of the second stage as well as the altitude.
25,000 kilometers an
And
hour.
we are about 20 seconds or so from SECO 1. That's where we will shut down this MVAC engine and allow the vehicle to coast with the payloads on board.
Looks like they lost the signal, Cape.
So SECO should be coming up any second now. There's SECO. SECO 1, I should say.
And you could see that MVAC engine beginning to shut down. We did hear a call out for expected loss of signal.
Looks like they might have a nominal orbit.
Nominal parking orbit.
Nominal parking orbit.
And we got confirmation of good orbit. So with confirmation of second engine cutoff and a good orbit, we'll be heading into a coast phase until our second relight of our MVAC engine around the T plus 30-minute mark. We'll come back to bring you live coverage of that second burn in about 20 minutes. So until then, sit back and enjoy the space tunes.
About 20 minutes till SECO 2. SECO, second engine SES 1, or no, SES 2. Ooh, look at that. It's purple. So yeah, second engine start 2 coming up, 20 minutes, and second engine start 3 coming up. What am I saying? Second engine start in 20 minutes. I'm gonna take a quick break, and I'll be back in about 20 minutes for second engine start 1. Yeah, see you in a bit.
Suspected loss of signal from Bermuda. Acquisition signal about.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Viasat-3 America's mission. If you're just joining us, we did have an on-time liftoff at 8:26 p.m. Eastern Time from Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A. Due to the performance requirements on this mission, we did not recover the side boosters or the center core, but our second stage is well on its way. Coming up next is the second of 3 total burns that the second stage needs to execute before payload deployment. Now for this next burn, we might lose ground station coverage, partly through the burn, so while we may not be able to confirm SECO-2 or good orbit immediately after, our team on console will be able to confirm this when we acquire signal from the next ground station. Now this burn should last just about 2 minutes and starting any second now. As you can see on your screen, we did just start up the second engine for the second burn.
All right, there's SES-1.
The purpose of this burn is to take us from a parking orbit in low Earth orbit and extend our apogee or peak of the orbit to an altitude of about 30,000 kilometers.
SECO-2 is just a minute or so away. Looks like a good burn.
The next burn after this, the third burn, will take the lower side of that orbit and also extend it out to about 30,000 kilometers. And that will put us in a geostationary orbit. Now what's special about a geostationary orbit is it takes roughly 24 hours for a satellite in this orbit to complete 1 full orbit around the Earth.
Expected loss of signal, goodbye.
T plus 31 minutes.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, it does look like we have lost ground station coverage. So once we regain signal at the next ground station, we should hear a call out for SECO-2, and that stage 2 is in a good orbit. Now, as far as live coverage for our third and final burn, that will occur in a couple of hours from now at the T plus 4 hour and 22 minute mark. I hope you all stick with us, and we will see you then.
Yeah, should have SECO-2. Now there's second engine cutoff too. Now SES-3, they said about 4.5 hours after launch, so in about 4 hours. So yeah, obviously I'm not gonna stream that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream now. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Yeah, it was good Falcon Heavy launch. So, see you guys all later.
Nominal transfer orbit.